No AD, no coach, no players, no problem. What are we going to do? I don't ever remember a situation like this with absolutely everyone leaving on any team ever in the history of sports. Ever. Has there ever been a situation like that?
I mean, I'm sure there has, which
Jeff,
I'm
you're
sure
muted.
Jeff is telling about us if he remembers to unmute himself.
Yeah.
My guy's having a week, so we're all going to just need to be patient.
Jeff, first of all, before we get into it, Jeff, you're unmuted. I think everybody watching knows kind of what's going on with your dad and everything. How's that going?
Yeah, everybody's been awesome. Thank you all for the positive thoughts and everything. He's out of the hospital now, so doing good. And I'm here in lovely Riderwood Village retirement community where all the old ladies look at me like a piece of steak when I walk through the lobby. So that's good for my ego. And just kind of paying it back for all the stuff I put them through. But thank you guys and everybody else. I appreciate it.
Good. Well, it's good that things are on the up because it was I know it was pretty stressful and pretty bad last week. So
I'm glad there's nothing going on with your job or anything that would be interfered with, with that,
Probably the busiest week of my life, literally, which for the site is a great thing. Obviously, it beats nothing going on and nobody caring. Like the site has been, I don't know if I've ever seen it this active. It just shows that people care. Even if Kevin Willard thinks it's a piece of trash to throw to the side, the fans still view it as valuable, right?
I mean, just for anyone who's not on the InsideMarylandSports.com message boards, you should be. You certainly should be anyway, but you really should be this week. Just for example, there's currently a 1,700 post thread about an assistant coach from UConn. That's where we're at this point in the coaching hullabaloo / shit show / whatever. So yeah, it's crazy. It's certainly more content than you can imagine, and I know things are kind of spinning out of control everywhere behind the scenes. So I think a lot of this episode is going to be trying to step back a little bit and maybe try and get an idea as to what the actual coaching candidates might look like, what that ideal person might look like, and the realistic scenario here. I mean, Maryland's got, as Larry said, no AD and no coach. They're not going to have basically any roster left, and the portal is open. So here we are.
And someone in the thread said they wanted a Larry spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You will not be disappointed, my friends.
I've got one.
I've got one for you. We're going to go through the coaches and we're going to drill into it a little bit. Before we get into that, there's one thing I want to do. I want to go over the standings in the IMS Radio Bracket Challenge.
Don't do that. We don't have to do that.
Yeah, because first place gets 1 year subscription, second place gets 6 months, and the top three all get to ask 5 questions. You can see right now Mike Barth in first, Bailey Starrett, I guess.
What's up, Bailey? Yeah, we see Bailey in the suite every year.
Yeah, and Kevin David is tied for third with Zach Minahan. And
see Billy Keggs on there.
Yeah, William Ginsburg tied for seventh. Not bad. We got Mia Khalifa enters every year. She's in 12th, doing pretty well. This is my boy Dave Braxton out in Vegas. Let's scroll down. Let's find some names in here. Let's see. Any IMS radio hosts yet? No, none of them. None. Here's our boy.
We're burying the lead here.
Yeah. There's Jay Zutant, our boy, the Lightwell Survey Winery owner, and we did the show with him, Jay Zutant, in 41st. There's John Orand, our boy John Orand, in 48th. Let's go to the next page.
Puck News.
And let's start scrolling down. There I am in 57th. Not exactly lighting the world on fire, but first amongst the hosts. Here's Chuck Douglas, Paul's brother. There we go.
Untrue.
Yeah, it's not true. I love making that joke every year. Okay, here's Paul Douglas in 84th. out of 147. So,
And you know what? Let me tell you something. I feel pretty good about that because that's where somebody belongs who actually like picks a real bracket and doesn't just choose chalk all the way home.
Right.
Look,
so
it's
you
not
picked
our
an
fault.
incorrect bracket.
It's not our fault that the
You
tourney is the most boring
All right,
ass
listen,
tournament in the
mine's not
past
good
25
either.
years.
But I'm not going to blame the people who picked it correctly. Hey, they picked it correct. Here we go. The real brains in the family in 84th there. First one of the
And Dana was
family.
looking good after the first couple
Dude,
days.
she was
He
number,
hit hard.
number one for like 3 days.
She was really good. All right,
about that.
we're through 2 pages now. Let's go to the third page. Here we go. That's my dad. That's not me. That's my dad, Larry France. There's Jeff Ehrman in 103rd, tied with our boy Tom Wentz, tied for 103rd, and Jacob already taken after his dad. Taken after his dad.
Damn.
107th. Superfan Antoine Cuffin, 107th, tied with Jacob. Let's keep going. Oh,
I like
here's our boy Walt Williams in 115th place. That's actually, I'm joking about Mia Khalifa. That's someone joking, but this is actually Walt Williams. So that's actually
I like that the whole Ehrman family is very close together in the spreadsheet. Like
they all cheated off.
They all sat together and picked them.
Okay, here's the thing. I like to pick upsets, right? We all do, but like, and there are no freaking upsets. What's the biggest like 3 or 5 upsets in the tournament this year?
McNeese.
Drake
is an 11 over 6.
Arkansas 10 getting
Arkansas was one.
Kind of. And let's keep going down here real quick. There's one thing I want to show you guys that's really interesting to me. First of all, the Turtle Protector picking North Carolina to win it in dead last.
Wow.
But this is crazy to me. Jeremy Wyatt picked Duke. So he's got 10 points just from Duke victories and only 44 overall. What does the rest of his bracket look like? Where he's got Duke and then still only 44 points. I thought that was very interesting. Anyway, it's going well.
But I still have Houston alive. So if Houston wins it, I feel like I can get into the 50s, maybe 40s.
You could jump up?
Maybe
mid-range. I had Alabama, so I'm kind of done. Here, look, you can see if Florida wins, you probably got Zach Meanahan, Daniel Lewis, and Max Friedman. If Houston wins, maybe it's Mike Barth and Evan Freeman. Duke, right? You can see based on who wins, is probably going to swap these guys around in the last weekend there. Okay, there you go. That's your update, and we can all take the walk of shame, the 3 of us. And Walt's the worst. He was down in the 140th or 135th, something like that.
It's pretty
out of 147. He's supposed to be an analyst.
But he's freaking Walt Williams. He can do whatever the hell he wants. I don't care.
He can do whatever he wants. He can. Yeah, he's earned the right to not be ridiculed.
Yeah. All right, so that's our show for tonight. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys next week. No, like I said, I have something fun for you guys. At least it's fun for me, and you can all laugh at my spreadsheets. I got one.
Well, we should probably force Jeff to do the coaching search breakdown first before we get into our exercise.
All right, go ahead. You do that.
I think that would
be overview.
What's the
time frame like? Maybe not get into who's going to get selected, the time frame, who's making the selection, all that.
Oh, please tell us who's going to get selected if you know that, but I don't think
I don't know yet. I don't think that person's been selected. Interviews have been taking place the past few days. I was told that they would like to make a decision by Wednesday or Thursday. It's pretty much the same names I've been reporting. Main ones being Tony Skinn, David Cox. I know Chris Collins is on the list. I don't know if he's interviewed, but Buzz Williams has interviewed, but I think that they're figuring it out on that one. Whatever, but most other people kind of thought of it, which is that too much baggage, stays nowhere more than 4 years. Best days are well behind him. So I don't think that's going to be the guy. Luke Murray, the UConn assistant, who has become like a rock star somehow, the Maryland fan. All that. I've never seen so many, in all the coaching searches I've seen, I've never seen so many people obsessed with an assistant coach from anywhere. He's on the list. I don't think he's interviewed. I'm not sure if he's really on that top tier of realistic targets. Who did I not say? You guys have been reading all my stuff. Who am I forgetting?
Mark Byington.
He might be. I'm not positive on him. I think there's 2 or 3 others that they're kind of keeping under wraps right now, so that'll be interesting to see. But there's really not like the blockbuster names. When you're in a position that Maryland's in right now, which is basically a dumpster fire, Kevin Willard pretty much just lit a match, poured some gasoline, and just ran out of town with all the assistants and players in the backseat of his car. It's very hard to find somebody. It's very hard to find anybody who has a good job and security currently. Like, nobody wants to go somewhere where they don't know who their boss is going to be, or where the last guy just painted the place as like, the worst place on earth to be, where, they're paying you in like McDonald's Monopoly game pieces and whatever else he said. So it's, all these names that pop up, Chris Beard, the NATO's thing was obviously just a meme online that people took seriously, which
Alabama's athletic director responded to today
hilarious.
On a national program.
And it started with a Maryland fan burner account on Twitter. I looked at it, and it has like 2,000 likes and like tons of retweets from just a random person. I don't know why, A, people think, random people have that, and B, I don't know how they can look at these clearly fake accounts with these reports and run with it. And I'll have people text me all day, you see so-and-so, NATO's, whatever, and I say, no, that's fake. And they'll be like, no, look, it's real. Like, people's bullshit meters need to be adjusted.
You trying to tell me there's a media literacy problem in America in 2025, Jeff? Because I just don't believe it. I spent half of last week dealing with people coming at me with the leave Brittany alone kind of energy on Will, except leave Kevin alone. And I was like, just wait, get back to me next week. If calling me all kinds of things. And I said, and very few of them have gotten back to me this week. They've all disappeared. But anyways, I think there's probably another few names in the mix, but again, it's a bad situation right now. So you're not going to be able to lure, one of those big names over. So, Chris Collins, did I see? I think I said Chris Collins. So really, in my opinion, you got to go for somebody with upside. If you can't get somebody proven, the past 2 hires, they've gone that middle of the road kind of route. Turgeon and Willard, they're both solid but unspectacular. You kind of knew what their upside was. You can't do that again. You can't just bore the fans to death. So if I'm them, I'm going with whoever I think has, the most upside. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Something to add, Dwayne Simpkins was kicked around by a number of people.
Yeah, he was originally.
Because he's like the only Terp who's even like a decent level coach. And he literally just signed an extension with American through like 2030 something, like an hour ago. So
I looked into that, and the buyout, he could get out of that easily. So that won't be and same with Tony Skinn, he can get out of that. At George Mason, but Simpkins was on the list originally. I don't think he's gotten an interview. I think he could have been a great hire. He's a great guy, very good coach, but I think that jump from American to Maryland is probably what kind of turned them off, because he has not, even Skinn has coached at this level and the assistant recruited at this level as an assistant, done it really well. He was the guy, even after he left Maryland, he was still helping them with Derek Queen while he was at George Mason and helped seal the deal. So yeah, Dwayne, I think Dwayne could have been an excellent guy, but it's just, I don't think he's gotten an interview.
Well, do you want to jump into my sheet and start rating these guys? Let me show you guys what I got here.
Larry couldn't resist doing a spreadsheet, so you're getting a spreadsheet.
I had to do it. Oops, I had to do it. I need to share a screen here. Give me 1 second to share a screen. It is this one right here. There we go. All right. I put up everybody who, except for NATO, because that one was clearly fake, but I put everybody who's been kind of mentioned. And here's what we're going to do. We need everybody to tell us, or we'll do it ourselves. Paul said he wanted to do it ourselves. We'll see. On resume, on a scale of 1 to 5, how important is that, Jeff? 5 is the most important. Resume is probably one of the most important things. Should probably be a 5, correct?
Normally it would be, but most of these guys don't really have a long time. I mean, other than Beard. I mean, Collins has been overachieved, but nobody, other than Beard, nobody has a really flashy resume.
So what would you say, like a 3 out of 5 then, maybe? Something like that.
Probably.
All right. We're going to make quick decisions so we're not sitting on this thing forever. X's and O's, the perception of the X's and O's of the coach. How important is that?
That's probably a 4.
Okay. Pace of play.
Usually I would say it's not that big, but in this case, the past 2 coaches have been defensive minded. So, it's a little more, I don't know, 3. We'll go 3.
Okay. Fan appeal. Kind of important, right? In this situation when Willard's so hated and there's a lot of people turned off about what's going on, or no?
It is, but again, just like the track record, there's nobody with like huge name value except for Beard, who I don't think is very realistic. So, but you do need to get people back on board. I don't know, 3.
3. The cost.
1. Most of them aren't that expensive, and at this point, you just have
is it even a factor? Should I remove it and put in loyalty, as Antoine Cuff said? Should we change
not
it
with
to
this
loyalty?
list because Beard is the only really high ticket item anyway.
Let's change it to loyalty then. There you go, our boy Antoine Cuff. Thank you for the now loyalty 1 through 5. How important is that one after what happened with Willard?
2. I mean, just try to win and worry about that later.
And character. Chris Beard is in this list, so how important is character?
Probably a 4, just because of what just happened.
Okay. All right, now let's go. These guys are listed in alphabetical order. Let's do them quickly. Do we want to alternate you guys, or do you want to kind of come to a consensus? All right, we'll do Buzz Williams. We'll start. Since you did the value, we'll let Paul start. Buzz Williams, 1 through 10 now. 10 being the best resume ever, 1 being the worst resume ever. Buzz Williams' resume, 1 through 10.
It's not bad. Most of it's a little further in the past than you'd like. So I'd say a 6.
Okay. X's and O's.
Probably about the same.
Okay. Pace of play.
They play pretty slow. I would much more defensive oriented. I would say a 4.
Fan appeal.
Man, I don't know. He seems like a guy who might win the press conference, but get really annoying as time goes on. I would just say a 5 or spread in the middle.
Loyalty.
Oh God, he leaves every 5 years, no matter what he's doing. He always wears that as welcome. So I would say like a 3.
And his character?
I would say like a 2 after that Marquette.
All right. So what's happening is this is getting multiplied by this, and he's got a final score of 83. Let's go, Jeff. Chris Beard. Resume.
9. No, 10.
Ooh.
10.
10?
I mean, he went to.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, he's
in another Final Four, right? Or was it Elite 8?
Yeah, he went to the final game.
Yeah,
he went to the final
four the year before that, I believe.
Elite Eight, and final game.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
so
sure is what it is. X's and O's also pretty good, right?
9.
Pace of play.
7.
Fan appeal.
That's a tough one because you're going to either love him or hate him. A lot of people.
So it's kind of like a 5, like a
they don't like the baggage there, but other people, 6, but a lot 6.
Okay, loyalty. We did this for our boy Antoine Cuff. We added.
I'm just saying, you don't really have a choice to leave. We'll go 6.
Okay, and character.
1.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Okay. Paul, you're getting Chris Collins' resume.
Sorry, Chris. 3.
X's and O's.
5.
Pace of play,
Yeah, 5,
fan appeal,
3. Former Dookie.
loyalty.
He's
Like a
stuck
pretty
at
loyal-
Northwestern, but I don't know if that's
Yeah.
because he that was the only place he could go. I don't know. 6.
6, okay. And character. He seems like a
Nobody's
pretty-
had a bad thing to say about him, so I would say like an 8.
8. All right. He's beating Buzz Williams. He is beating Buzz Williams. Look at that. Current
Yeah.
standings: Chris Beard, Chris Collins, Buzz Williams. All right, you get David Cox, Jeff. How about resume for David Cox?
6. I mean, he didn't do great at Rhode Island, but that's a really tough job, so we'll go 6.
All right, X's and O's. Hard to say because he's just
really hard to say as an assistant, but he is well respected. I'll say 7.
Okay, pace of play, also similar kind of.
Yeah, that's hard to recall what his style was at Rhode Island. We'll just go 7.
Fan appeal.
Probably a 5, to be honest. Like he's been out of head coaching for a while, so I don't know that his name recognition is as high as some of the others.
Loyalty is about ready to leave for Villanova, so.
Yeah, he is a pretty loyal. He's a good, solid character guy. Or that character is separate, huh? Okay, we'll just say we'll say 7.
And character.
Yeah, it's a 10. He's a solid guy.
Okay. Oh, wow. He's in first place. First place. All right. Dwayne Simpkins for Paul. Our boy Dwayne, resume.
I love Dwayne. I'm just going to preface all of this by saying that I love Dwayne Simpkins. Resume is a 2.
That's
X's and O's, I'll give him a 5 because he did pretty well this year, but it's hard to know. Pace of play, I didn't watch a lot of American, but I'll give him a 5. Fan appeal, I'd say 7. I think people misunderstand how much casuals care about that. He's a Terp kind of thing. Loyalty probably a 9 or 10. If he got this job, I can't imagine he'd go anywhere. And character, he's an awesome dude. Again, I'd say a 10.
Look at that, second place. All right, Luke Murray for Jeff. He gets the message board.
Thank God I avoided this minefield.
Yeah.
Cult favorite resume for Luke Murray, Jeff.
I haven't fudged a test in a long time. I mean, he does get credit for being a big piece of the back-to-back titles and recruiting-wise as well. So, but it wasn't as a head coach, so it's really hard to. We'll just go 6 on that.
Okay, X's and O's. That's what he's known for, right?
Yeah, we'll go 7.
That's it. Okay.
Maybe 8. Two titles, even if you're not the head coach, is still very impressive.
Yeah, pace of play.
Probably an 8.
Okay, fan appeal. It depends on which segment of the fan base.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just based on the groundswell online. It's got to be a 10. People are just screaming his name.
Ooh, there we go.
See, and the funny thing is the casuals would be like, who did Maryland just hire?
Yeah.
This is a travesty.
Loyalty for Luke Murray. Unsure.
No clue. We'll go 6.
Okay, and character.
Don't know that much about him. We'll go just throw a 7 out there.
And he has taken the lead. Paul, you get Mark Byington, resume.
So this is interesting. So he was at a lower level and worked his way up the chains, been coaching for a while, and his last couple jobs has been very good. So I would say 7.
Okay.
Give me a
X's
7
and
on
O's.
X's and O's. Known as a bit of a nerd favorite.
Okay.
Another 7 for pace of play. Fan appeal, getting the coach from Vanderbilt will not be appreciated by anybody except for the nerds. So I would just say like a 4.
Okay.
Loyalty, I have no idea. Just going to get a gentleman's 6 there. And I haven't heard anything bad or good about him, so I'll give him another 6.
All right. We got Mr. Steve Blake, who it's not happening, but he's been mentioned, and he's a lot of posts on his side as well. And he even said on Twitter, hey, I'm interested in the job. So
Len Elmore would hire him.
We'll include him here. Jeff, you get to do Steve Blake. His resume.
Yeah, Jeff got to step on mines in both of these.
I mean, he was a great player. I understand the beloved former hero point guard thing, but
He does have experience in the NBA, right? He was an
2
assistant.
years as an assistant.
So that's some.
Yeah, 2 years as an assistant, but no college experience. College is totally different, especially now with, there's a reason why, Tony Bennett, Jay Wright, Jim Larinaga, all these guys are retiring a little earlier than planned. And it's because of all the different pain that you have to go through now with revenue sharing, NIL, everything else. It's a much tougher job. So I just don't. Anyways, zero. I mean, he did the NBA too. We'll go 2 experience.
Okay, X's and O's, hard to know.
I think he could be a good. I mean, obviously, like I've said a bunch of times, he's the prototypical guy that you point to when he's
right.
That he's going to be a great coach one day. So I think he'd be good, but it's all hypothetical. We'll say 7.
Okay, pace of play, same kind of thing. 7.
Yeah, I mean 6.
A 6. Fan appeal's got to be a 10. He is a Maryland legend.
He is, but I think there's a lot of people who also kind of agree with me. But yeah, the casual fan who isn't breaking all this down would probably like.
At least at first, until things started going wrong.
Yeah, and then you're in the Patrick Ewing situation where it's
right
because you don't want to fire a hero or.
But for right now,
Johns. Yeah, I mean it's definitely high. I'll say 8.
8. Okay. Loyalty, you'd have to think.
Yeah, loyalty. I'll go 10. See, that's the problem. He's gonna end up in first.
Character, we've seen him getting some scuffs and.
Yeah.
Right.
He
seems like a good guy, right?
Stuff, though.
Yeah.
I don't know any. So yeah, we'll say
8. Okay. All right. And last one for Paul. Tony Skinn. Resume for Tony Skinn.
So I would say probably a 6 for him. George Mason's a pretty good job. He's been a high major assistant too, so maybe a 7, but I'll stick with a 6 there.
Okay.
X's and O's, I think a 7. He's a smart guy. He was well regarded here. Pace of play, they don't play fast at George Mason. That's probably a 4.
Okay.
Fan appeal, I think a lot of people might not recognize the name, but once they would warm to him pretty quickly. So I'd say maybe like a 7. Loyalty, again, hard to know, but he is a local guy. So, again, I'll say like a 7. And then like a 8 for character. I don't know him personally, but I've never heard anybody say anything bad about him. So
let me sort this by score, largest to smallest. And here we go. Our final standings. In first place, Luke Murray. In second place, David Cox. That's a surprise to me. In third place,
loyalty, fan appeal, and character are doing a lot for some of these guys.
Yeah. Well, after what just happened, it probably is important to people, right? Steve Blake in third, Tony Skinn in fourth, Dwayne Simpkins fifth, Chris Beard sixth, Mark Byington 7, Chris Collins 8, and Buzz Williams 9. The guy who's gotten the most buzz, Buzz Williams, is in last place.
I think we need to tweak the algorithm, though, because those top 3 might be 3 of the least likely guys to get the job.
So,
yeah,
we could change loyalty to likelihood, but or we could change character. We could lower character to a 1 here. Like if you don't care about character at all, watch.
Yeah, I couldn't care one bit about character. I'm not going to lie to you.
Chris Beard just jumped to first place.
Second place, yeah, but yeah.
Was it second?
Yeah. Second on the list has been to a national championship.
Yeah, you lower the importance of character, and Chris Beard jumps to the top. That's hilarious.
That pretty much tells you all you need to know here. I mean, luckily this has nothing to do with anything. We're just trying to have some fun with it. But I think this, if you're just talking about this from a bit of a cirrus cloud perspective, Maryland's got an interesting choice here because you've got a coaching search that's being run by a president's office and a bunch of high-level boosters because you don't have an AD. You don't have, a full-on committee approach or any of this other stuff. So, like, typically, I always get the feeling that a lot of ADs, especially newer ones, like to come in and make a resume hire. They hire somebody that makes them look good. It doesn't really matter how that ends. It's kind of like selling the monorail to a town and then leaving town before they start building it, because it doesn't matter at that point. You just want to look good with the hire. Say, hey, I made a great hire. If it doesn't work out, it's somebody else's fault. You don't have that pitfall here, but you've got a pitfall where you've got a school that's been burned publicly by a guy. The last two hot coaches they've hired, I feel like, have been those resume type coaches. They were P5 coach steals that, you wanted to feel good about yourself. Like, oh, we're a big job. We stole Texas A&M's coach. We're a big job. We stole Seton Hall's coach. I don't know if that's the best way to set yourself up. I mean, the obvious move there, if you're making that similar type of decision, would be Chris Collins. He's like exactly the same situation. A guy at a P5 program that's not very good. It's really hard to get talent to, but who seems to have overperformed relative to their, program's standards, as it were. And you're basically betting that guy can come here and level up because Maryland as a program is a way higher level than it is at Seton Hall or Northwestern or Texas A&M or whatever it shall be. I think that's a mistake. I really do. I think Chris Collins is probably a perfectly fine coach. I don't think he's a guy that takes you to a Final Four. I don't know these guys that takes you to Sweet 16. He's never done it before. So I find that weird. I think you're going to have a faction of people involved in this search. If you didn't see, Len Elmore posted a very public letter today talking about how Maryland athletics has been burned by these mercenary types and needs to get more Terps involved, more people. I
haven't read the whole thing yet. I haven't had a chance. Did he name any names? Or
he did not name any names because there aren't any names basically when it comes to the basketball search. And that's now, if you're talking about the AD job, that's a whole different discussion. And we can circle back on that because there are some Terps who are qualified for that job. There really aren't any Terps who are qualified for this coaching job. Dwayne Simpkins just isn't there yet. He might be in 2 or 3 years, but nobody's making that jump from American. So, it's really hard to know where they go, and they've got to make a decision soon. So, for me, I'm the type of guy where it's like, you know what? Call in that nerd analytics guy who convinced Kevin Willard the 3-pointers were good and tell him to give you a list of 5 names, and you interview those guys and see what happens. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I would look at an Alan Huss, the guy from High Point who, basically turned their entire program around and has, analytics to back him up. In a way that, say, Tony Skinn, who went to George Mason, he's been a high-level assistant. His George Mason analytics numbers aren't great. Does that mean he can't be a good coach? Absolutely not. He won the A-10 this year. But the numbers are somewhat predictive. They do matter a little bit. Finding a guy who's got the right kind of offensive, especially numbers, it does matter. And I don't know that they're going that way on this search, and that concerns me a little bit, but I'm also to the point where, I don't know, find a guy who wants to be here. And if it's going to be somebody you're not going to have to pay a ton of money, if you make a mistake and you got to do it again in 3 years, so what? That's better than hiring a Chris Collins you have to give $5 million a year and never be able to fire. You know what I mean? So if you hire somebody from a lower level and they don't cost as much, reroute some of that money into NIL and give it a whirl. And if 2 or 3 years we're back here doing the same thing, that's fine. I'd much rather that than have another high major guy that you got to overpay for less results than you get otherwise. But that's my general feeling.
I don't go with Collins either. Same, very linear, like he said, with Turge and Willard. He could level up. I think he's, I used to kind of make fun of him a little bit because I watched their games and they would always melt down late. But the past few years, he's done a solid. They've never been in the NCAA tournament in history in like 120 years, and he's been twice in the past 5 or 6. So I think he's a good coach, but there's just no sizzle factor at all there. You got to have more upside. There's not a real obvious guy in terms of that. And in terms of Len Elmore, if you're going to put that out there, which Len Elmore is a million times more accomplished and smarter than me, but you better name a name because there's nobody with the resume for it. So you can't just put that out there and say it needs to be. Maybe he was hinting at Blake. I don't know, but that guy doesn't really exist right now to me. I think, like I said, I think Simpkins could do great, but that's a huge leap. from American. So out of all these guys, and just if you're just talking upside, I think Murray and Skinn are clearly head and shoulders above the rest, probably.
Those
And
are my
Murray
one
won.
and two.
Murray won whether we gave character a high score or not. Someone pointed out in the chat, I was going to put it up, but he won in both instances. So even how we tweaked it. So he seems like the favorite. Do you have any sense that he's got it?
No, I don't think he's interviewed yet from what I've gathered. I think they just reached out to him today, maybe yesterday, maybe in response to the online, like Luke Murray extravaganza taking place. But, Skinn's recruited really well, too. Like I said, he got Queen, he got DHS, which he might not have panned out, but he was still a top 25 recruit that everybody wanted. Yeah. And a team takeover kid. Maryland wasn't getting any team takeover kids at all. So he has relationships with all of the AAU programs. It's hard to be cool with everybody. Most guys are either linked in with Team Takeover, or you're linked in with Durant or Team Durant or someone else. And he's the rare guy. So I'm not trying to say, give a sales pitch for him. I'm just saying, in terms of upside, you need talent right now. And especially if your roster has been burned to the ground, you got to get a whole bunch of talent. So out of all those guys, I feel like he could probably get the most talent immediately.
And Matthew Chipola just said DHS to the portal, by the way. That's brand new, right? Is that just coming out now?
They're all going to be
the others. Right,
but this is mostly going. I think he could end up at Georgetown. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
They're all going to end up in the portal. We don't have a roster right now. You just need to pretend everybody is gone until proven otherwise. Don't even think about it. Nobody plays for Maryland right now.
Literally, Indiana's entire roster went into the portal. Everybody.
Well, I mean, and I think a lot of it, that's just going to be college basketball right now. Obviously, when you have a coaching search or a new coach coming in, it's going to be different. But, I mean, that's just going to be the way it is for the most part. Now, I'm going to assume that there are some people listening who are not on the Luke Murray extravaganza tour bus on the InsideMarylandSports.com message board. So just so if you don't know who he is, yes, he is Bill Murray's son. He's a high-level assistant who coached with Chris Mack at Louisville and Dan Hurley, both at Rhode Island and UConn. And if you look at all of those coaches and their offensive ratings when he was there versus when he was not there, it's like two completely different teams and programs. This guy can coach offense, and he's an excellent recruiter. That's what I think has got a lot of people excited. And I think part of it too is I think a lot of us feel like Maryland could take a real chance here. You don't have a lot of opportunities as a program to take a gamble. But right now, Maryland has literally nothing to lose. There is no roster. There's no AD. There's no program. Everything's just sitting here. It's like a, driverless Tesla, except, Starlink isn't working and it's just going straight for the brick wall. And you got to get somebody in there to turn the car. So for me, yes, I agree. I think Tony Skinn and Luke Murray both make the most sense here for somewhat different reasons. Luke Murray is the analytics guy. He's the guy can coach offense. Can he run a team? I don't know.
There is such thing like in the NFL. There are guys who are great coordinators and terrible head coaches. And I talked to somebody today who's very familiar with him and been around the UConn program. And his take was he's not sure that he's a head coach kind of guy. So, I don't know. That could be wrong, but he was a little surprised that I had mentioned him. Sometimes guys are just really good number twos. That's not to say there's not a chance that he could be, but that was his take.
Yeah, the only thing that holds me back from Luke Murray is why he hasn't taken a head coaching job somewhere or gotten a head coaching job somewhere before now. And I know everybody wants to just pretend that that's not a factor, but it is. It's going to be a factor that he's not been a head coach before. The Maryland job is a big-ass coaching job, whether you feel like it's a top 15 or top 20. It doesn't matter. It's a giant program, and if you've never run something like that before, that is an issue. At least if you're looking at somebody like Skinn, he's been an assistant at Ohio State and Maryland and Seton Hall. He's seen how things work at those level programs, on top of now proving that he can be a successful head coach at a lower level. So I'm all in on either of those guys. It's not the best situation. We can all admit that. I mean, Maryland got here late in the game, and frankly, Kevin Willard lit the program on fire and set the fuse as he was leaving, and that's just it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah, and just so in case people just tuned in, we are only discussing the guys that we know are in the search. So before you start yelling about
what are the chances, Jeff, that some other candidates outside of these ones we've been talking about, that it could be somebody that emerges outside of that group?
I think there's a pretty good chance there's maybe 2-ish guys that we don't know about yet. I think that's a real possibility.
Do you know about, but you're just not saying?
No, I'm hoping to find out tomorrow, but it's
okay.
The ones I've gotten have been, the ones that we've mentioned. I've heard that there could be a couple others, but no, I honestly don't know if they have any legit mystery candidates. I think that there might be a guy or two that I don't know about yet.
Okay. Now, we've done coaching for 45 minutes. They also don't have an AD. What's going on there? Are there candidates emerging there? Anything remotely close to happening?
I don't think there's anything remotely close to happening. I mean, you never know. It could be behind the scenes, like, moving a little faster than we realize, but they've kept that one pretty quiet, I think. And I think the focus really right now is mostly on the basketball coach. It's hard to do both those things at the same time, especially with like the skeleton crew that you have now with Evans gone. So I think that'll happen after basketball, which ideally you want to have the AD first, obviously, so you can tell.
I was just going to say that,
who they're working for, but you can't because the portal is going. All these guys are jumping in. You have basically no roster whatsoever, so you got to get a coach, and then maybe you ask for their feedback on the ADs. But no, that one still I think is a little ways off.
Yeah, I think they'll take a month or two on the AD. I think just because you don't have the impending necessity of getting a guy in here. The spring sports have started. Whatever's happening there is happening. It's kind of on autopilot. And I think with the AD, they really need to do their due diligence, because not only are you looking at someone who's got basically a bigger job, trying to organize the entire athletic department, especially with all this money floating around in this new world and whatnot, is an incredible enterprise. So I think not only because of the size and scope of that job, but because they're probably going to look at people who aren't necessarily standard issue athletic department material. Because basically, in a lot of ways, you're looking for somebody who might have pro experience. You might have somebody who comes from pro sports. We've had Dominique Foxworth. His name's been kicked around. Joe LeBou, who's a former president of Charlotte FC. Like these guys who are Terps. It seems like there's a lot of focus on Terps, and I think maybe that's where Len Elmer was going with that letter, but he didn't specify that either. But there are a lot of guys. Kirby obviously is a fan favorite, and a lot of us have interacted and think he'd be great. So it does feel like they're trying to focus in on people who care about this place and who want to make it great, so they don't get burned again with the way they did with Damon. But it's going to take some time to shake that out, and there's really not the necessity to get this done before April.
I was going to say about the loyalty thing and being a Terp thing. I think that's more important for the AD than the coach. The AD is making long-term decisions for the program. The health has to think long-term a little bit more than the coach does. And they're not just making basketball decisions, they're making for the entire athletic department, football, and to the extent you care about non-revs, which a lot of people do, some people don't. But I think that position, it would be way more important to have someone who's loyal to the program and cares about Maryland than the basketball coach. Agree or no?
100%. A coach can have a good year and get out of town. An AD is probably going to be around for a long time. They're not going to, if you have somebody who's loyal, and that's been a complaint, forever, that Maryland doesn't hire enough alumni who are really, invested personally in the program. So I think you're spot on with that, Larry. I think you really need somebody innovative. I'm not going to say young, but they need to be forward thinking, because it's a whole different deal now. You need to really no marketing, so you can get the NIL thing going, get opportunities for athletes to make money, so you can have more than just the revenue share to recruit with. So, somebody dynamic. And, we all knew Damon Evans was not a great athletic director, but now that it's done, looking back, he looks even worse, because all this stuff that's happened, Kevin Willard is to blame for a good chunk of it, but, it was bit by bit by bit, year after year. That first bad deal with Turgeon, giving him all that money, and then he leaves 8 games in, and the two of them despised each other. And now the Willard thing is melted down, the NIL situation, the way that he, for as much as I've said that Willard was overstating things, there was some really just cheap, basically, like small time operations taking place with some things. And then the hiring, it seemed to be more about who would be loyal to him as opposed to who would make Maryland better, So when you look back, I mean, Maryland has had really bad string of athletic directors.
I was just thinking the last 3 are not liked at all. Debbie Yao, Kevin Anderson, Damon Evans. Rank them. Rank the 3 of them.
Do you know how much it hurts me to say that Debbie Yao is the best out of those 3?
Rank those 3. Like,
the person who built that monstrosity of an upper deck in Bird Stadium is still the best athletic director of the 3, probably.
It was one of the most horrible to deal with people I've ever dealt with in my life. On top of it,
just a miserable person.
The Kevin Willard of ADs, basically. But yeah, she's the best by far. You look at that. I mean, Kevin Anderson got them into the Big Ten, but he fell into that. I don't know how much credit.
Did he do it, or was it?
I think it was right place, right time.
That was right place, right time, and Wally's connections to the Big Ten were helpful there too.
That's what I was going to say. It had a lot to do with Wallace Lowe.
Yeah, and he Anderson blew the Sean Miller thing, so that's his big debacle among.
And Mike Leach.
Yeah, thought he had done fired.
Did he blow that? It's hard to blame him. I think it was Leach acting like a weirdo in the interview.
Yes, he should have calculated that. He got rid of Friedgen with the idea in mind that he was going to have Leach wrapped up. If you do that, then he better be wrapped up.
That's true.
And he was so flammable that he should have known.
From good to great. From good to great was the famous quote.
Well, and let's talk about these 3 for a second. So I think Debbie Yao came to Maryland from like St. Louis. Kevin Anderson was the athletic director at Army, and Damon Evans was coming from like the California Penal League because he got fired from Georgia for having a co-ed in his, or an employee, I believe, even in his Maserati late at night without her panties. So we haven't really done the best hiring for this job in the past, if we're being honest. And I think maybe starting there. I mean, St. Louis and Army are not what you would consider peer programs to Maryland.
Hold on. Kevin Anderson went to the Xerox Leadership Academy or whatever it was. Don't forget about that.
That's a good point. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave that out of his resume. Oh, by the way, what's up? What's up, Big T? T-Bone's my man T-Bone's on the stream. So maybe let's start by hiring somebody who's either from a peer program, somebody internally. I will say people talk about not having Terps in the athletic department. That has been a long-standing, decades-long complaint. There actually are a lot of Terps in the athletic department right now, just not at the tippy top level right now. So go hire Kirby. See what happens. I'm good with that. I mean, anybody who's interacted with him, do it. You know, if Joe LeBou or Dominique wants to come and do this thing, Dominique has run professional players associations. Like, that is a legit job. These guys, I would say all 3 of those guys right now are more qualified than anybody who's had this job in the past 30 years.
Let's bring all 3. That's what the post I made. Bring them all 3 and figure out how to arrange them. One is AD, one is as the vice AD or assistant AD, whatever, and Kirby in charge of something or whatever. Like, however you want to do that. Bring all 3.
Is this an alternate universe where money and ego are not things?
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we're all doing it for the love of the game. That's it.
I mean, I think Foxworth is a grand slam. How do you not want a guy who's a Maryland alum, super smart, NBA and NFL Players Association president, and Harvard business graduate, and an ESPN, so he can
So
work.
get it done.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, that's the guy. But the thing is, if you bring up someone like that to anyone involved on the basketball side, they're going to shoot it down immediately because they're worried that he's going to favor football. But if you bring up anybody with basketball ties to anybody on the football side, they do the exact same thing because everybody's worried about that revenue share and funding.
This has to be happening at every school around the country right now. The basketball and football coaches are pitted against each other. It's got to be happening everywhere.
I'm sure it is, but a lot of those schools, like in the SEC and a lot of the Big Ten schools, it's probably already just assumed football is going to get whatever it wants, and that's just it. Nobody even bats an eyelash. Maryland's kind of it's an outlier, with how much people care about basketball.
It is.
Yeah, I think it's comparative to jobs like Indiana or Kentucky or those types of things where you've got programs in big SEC Big Ten conferences where you've got to be competitive at least to some degree. If this thing does blow up like everybody talks about, you need to make sure you've got a seat at the table when the music stops. And football is all that matters for that. It just is. And I think that's an interesting, as we all watch this play out, like, Kevin Willard, it does seem like he never really wanted to be here. But assuming he did, let's just play it out that he was happy to stay here, but he got a better opportunity. He's making a bet that these Big East basketball schools are going to be able to throw more money at basketball and be more competitive than the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the SEC schools as this thing develops. I don't know if that's a good bet. It might be a good bet in the short term, but as the medium and long term, man, I don't know how much these schools get squeezed because they're just not going to have the cash coming in. They might not have football sucking it up, but they're not going to have any to give to basketball. Not the way these other schools are. So I think that's going to be the dynamic to pay attention to.
SEC and Big Ten, well, if they see the Big East taking advantage of kind of a loophole, they're going to team up and change the rules.
Yep.
No matter what happens, it's going to continue to evolve in their favor because they have all the power. But
we were saying exactly that.
Yeah, for right now, for basketball, Big East does have a big advantage. It'd be interesting to see if next year in the NCAA tournament, the Big East does what kind of the SEC has done this year. And how about the Big Ten? Congratulations on another year without a national title. The streak is alive.
And not even close, really.
Not a Final Four team. They have one Elite Eight. Was Michigan?
Yeah, Michigan State.
Yeah, one Elite Eight.
They played exactly to their rankings, both in the polls and the analytic rankings. No one upset anyone. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it played out kind of the way we thought it did. Like, I think I had said something in one of the, maybe a Selection Sunday, I don't know, but it felt like the Big Ten didn't have an elite team. Like, there were some really good teams. Michigan State, obviously really good. Michigan on State, good. Purdue, good. Maryland, good. There were Wisconsin, good. Plenty of good teams, but no elite teams. And you could see the difference between those top 4, 5, 6 teams. If you throw in, Tennessee, Alabama with the 4-1 seeds, man, they were just waxing everybody. And Maryland against Florida. I mean, Maryland didn't play great, but I mean, they didn't really have much of a chance in that game. I mean, they're too deep, too good. It was just never going to work. So, I think the Big Ten basically, kind of Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are. I mean, they just kind of were what they were. They were really good with no teams that really had a shot at the Natty. So here they are again. Now, is that a problem?
Willard situation take away from your enjoyment of the tournament?
Oh, a lot. Are you kidding?
And
yeah, there was a whole, Paul kind of gave a big kind of speech about how, and Naki gave a similar one on the radio that's kind of been going around about how Willard stole the joy away from the fan base. The first time Maryland should have been so happy, and it's so true. And nobody was happy because everybody was wondering about Willard and kind of angry and like, do you even root for Willard when he's such a? I won't say it again for your benefit, Jeff, but it was awful.
Yeah,
we should have been so excited, and instead it was.
Maryland
constantly and try to get more money, try to get better jobs. That's just part of the deal. But if you have coached this team to the program's highest point in, at least 10 years, because they hadn't been in the Sweet 16 in about 10 years, and then this team arguably was better than that one, so maybe 20 years, and you are taking a job somewhere else as you enter the tournament, that just shows you never cared at all about. You never had any investment in the program. It is all about you. And now that that's done, and especially, and then on top of that, to trash the program and devalue it nationally by saying all these things and to talk as if you're a free agent throughout that. I might come back, I might not. You have 4 years left on your deal. Like, why are you saying that? And then after the final game, when they asked him, obviously, and he played dumb about Villanova. I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody. I don't know who my agent has talked to, but I don't know. I have a lot to think about, Maryland. I don't know if I'm coming back. It's a family thing. Well, if you haven't talked to anybody, you don't know who your agent's talking to, then what do you mean you don't know if you're coming back? There has to be another option, like unless you're talking about retiring. So that was a dead giveaway right there. I think he
talked in circles.
Yeah, he didn't think that one through.
He was just full of shit. I mean, he was in the hotel room with his family. Like, I don't want to talk about this guy anymore. But I will talk about the disappointment. He stole that week from us, man. Yeah. I mean, Maryland hits a game-winning shot by its, super fun personality unicorn of a freshman from Baltimore. They're the talk of the tournament because it's the only game-winning shot. I think the only buzzer beater of the entire tournament is the only thing anybody had anything interesting to talk about. He was all over the media, and all week we were sitting there being like, well, what's Willard going to do? Why are we talking about this bald fraud instead of Derek Queen? Why are we not talking about the Sweet 16 taking your shot at Florida? I mean, he stole that from all of us, and it's bullshit. I never get over it.
Also, I mentioned is looking back at it, the comment after Queen's shot, I went in the huddle and I said, who wants to shoot the ball? That feels really casual for an NCAA tournament game, like almost like you have nothing to lose.
Like who cares?
About the result. And then before that, when oh my God, I just drew a blank. What was the other one?
I don't know.
Okay. So a few days earlier, he was interviewed and he was like, we're preparing for the game, but the portal's so big. We had a 2-hour meeting on the portal and what we want to do next year.
For Villanova.
Single offer popped up anywhere for transfers. If you're having a 2-hour meeting, somebody's going to be coming out and saying, I got a Maryland offer. There were some Villanova offers coming up, but I didn't see a single Maryland offer pop up.
Your counterpoint on the Villanova board is reporting that he was recruiting for Villanova while under contract at Maryland, while Maryland's in the tournament and had a legit shot at a Final Four. I know they got blown out, but if everybody's still bought in and still Maryland in the second half, when they get down 7 or 9, maybe they fight and they get it back to 5 or 3 or something. Instead, Juju commits the technical and they just blew it. And it's easy to say, we had a good run. We're all out of here anyway. If everybody's bought in, that might go differently. The second half might happen differently. I'm not saying they win, but maybe they do. If you fight, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, they probably don't win, but just even if he, like, after saying that about talking about the transfer portal and seeing no offers pop up, if he gets to Villanova, if he brings the whole staff with him, and then you see them bring guys on campus who were offered right around the tournament, that's pretty damning to me. I don't want to sound like sour grapes, people on Twitter.
It's not sour grapes. It's really unethical.
Yeah, exactly. They'll come out, let it go, guys, move all the time. I know they move all the time. I don't have any problem with that, but I don't think I've seen a guy that brazen before.
Yeah, I mean, even when yes, I mean, obviously Maryland basically hired him while he was still coaching in the tournament for Seton Hall. But, he also didn't really, he said he wasn't going to bring anybody from that Seton Hall team. Nobody was good. I think the only one who ended up coming was Jahari, who was kind of an afterthought, and I'm not sure Sheehan Holloway wanted to keep him around anyway. So like, it's not quite the same, but that's kind of how this guy rolls. And, for me, if you're looking back at clues, when he was giving that last press conference and he was just talking about like, oh, I had a great, I don't want to answer your question about whether I'm staying in Maryland. I want to talk about how he had a great dinner last night with PJ Carlissimo and Stan Van Gundy talking about the old Big East war stories. And it's just like, okay, lay it on a little thicker then, buddy. I mean, it just sucks. It sucks because I don't want this to damage how I remember that team, because that was a fun team. That was a really fun team.
And Derek Queen is one of the best freshman years in the history of the program. Him and Joe Smith are probably arguably 1 and 2. I'd probably put Joe still 1, but probably 1 and 2 all time. And it is tainted though. Okay, I think we've beat that to death. You guys agree we're over an hour now? I think
they probably still want to talk more about Luke Murray, but I got nothing.
I got some ladies to talk to in the lobby, so I got to run.
He's got to run. We're gonna go to Paul's favorite segment of the show, and what everybody is here for: Wheels non-revs report. Here we go.
Hey everyone, this is Wheels with your Inside Maryland Sports non-revenue sports report. We're gonna start on the Diamonds. Men's baseball struggling at 14-14, dropping a bunch of games recently, especially in the Big Ten.
And women's softball.
Northwestern came to town and put 2 bad ones on the Terps before they rebounded to win the final game of the 3-game set in a 22-11 win over Northwestern. Softball is doing marginally better, although when you welcome in teams like UCLA, number 7 UCLA, you know you're going to take your lumps. They dropped a 3-game set to the Bruins this past weekend. They go down to Virginia this Thursday in a non-conference game. We're going to head out and talk about some golf. The women's golf team finished kind of mid-pack last week at the Clemson Invitational. Finally, let's wrap up with lacrosse. Women's lacrosse really struggling of late. They dropped a close game at number 15 Penn. They begin a West Coast swing where they will take on Arizona State, who, by the way, is in the Big 12 for lacrosse. And also, they will take on UCLA. Finally, men's lacrosse with a big victory over number 6, Penn State, this past weekend. They continue their Big Ten play. They go to Rutgers this Saturday. Early evening game, 5 p.m. on the banks of the Raritan. Right now, the men's lacrosse team is ranked number 2 in the country. They are looking like a sure lock for the NCAA tournament. And that is it on your non-revenue sports report. Take care, everyone.
All right, thank you, Wheels. I literally saw the numbers in YouTube go boop, 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 boop.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to save it, Larry. I have committed to going to the Maryland Hopkins lacrosse game on Friday the 18th or whatever it is.
Yep.
Something like that. So somebody give me tickets and get me in a suite. That's how this is going to roll.
You don't want the suite. I've been in the suite. You don't want it. It's more fun to sit in the crowd.
Wrong.
No, it is. It is more fun to sit in the crowd. I've been.
No, you want to get in the suite, and like if the weather's nice, then you get to go out and be with the people. But if the weather sucks, you're in a suite. Still April. It's still April in Maryland, man.
Although I actually sat with Tony, and that's different. That's a press box. So maybe the suite's a little better.
The press boxes and the suite are a little different, Larry.
Yeah, it is a little different. You're right. Anyway, I saw Patrick Stevens there. I saw your boy there. That was nice.
He'll be there. We're actually going to go get 250 before the lacrosse game, so I'm making a day of it.
Go get 250.
250 barbecue down at Riverdale.
Oh,
best damn barbecue joint this side of Austin, Texas.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna have to try it. They have good brisket.
Yeah, you'll never go back after it. You'll have to drive an hour and a half to it every time you want barbecue from now on. So,
all right, I will do that. All right, we're going to end the show with true or false. I will make a statement about Maryland sports. You will have to say true or false and expound upon it. Jeff, we will start with you. Maryland will have a new head coach by Friday.
I'll say true. I think I've heard Wednesday or Thursday is kind of a goal to wrap it up. Could stretch till Monday maybe, but I'll stay true by Friday.
Okay. Paul, Maryland will have a competitive basketball team next year.
Look, here's the thing.
Get competitive out of it.
You need to define competitive.
Next year,
Yeah, Maryland will have basketball team. I talked to somebody today who said they think they might have a significant amount of money for next year that they've raised outside of what they're going to get from the house settlement. So they might have some funds to put together a team, but man, they got to start from literal scratch. So if you mean competitive by like in the NCAA tournament, I'm not going there. not until I see it.
They could have Rodney Rice back, by the way, even though he went in the portal. That one's far from done. Just so you know. So they could
and is it? Go ahead, Paul.
Gillespie, I think, is long gone, but I think there's a chance if they hire the right guy that Rice could come back.
And isn't Luke Murray supposedly going to bring Reeby with him? How cool would that be? There you go. You got Reeby and Rice. You got your inside-outside threat. That's a start.
That's a start if you could pull it off.
All right.
There's no supposedly. I mean, it's just somebody made up. But
Jeff, next one for you. Maryland will have a new AD by the end of April.
Yeah, I'll say true. That's another month. Yeah, I'll say true.
True. Okay. Paul, you've been clamoring for house settlement money go to the basketball team, but the way things look right now, just might as well put it into football.
No, that's stupid. Don't do that. No, false. Do not do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. You can't save. I don't want to have this discussion again. No.
Okay. All right, Jeff. No matter who gets hired, some segment of the fan base will be upset.
Oh, that's the easiest one ever. Yeah, true. In these searches, everyone's got their guy and they stick to him. You know, like everybody, like when you're a kid and you have your favorite WWE wrestler or something, and they don't give it up. So yeah, there will be 70% at least will not be happy.
If Maryland hired John Shire and he brought like his starting five here with him next year, somebody would be upset.
Well, yeah, because it's Duke. You made a bad choice, Paul. You should have picked somebody else.
No, I know that's stupid. No,
Todd Golden and the entire Florida roster.
No. Guess what? Get over it. We don't play Duke anymore. They don't matter. They don't matter.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying for me. I'm saying that will be the complaint. If they
Lefty
did
was okay, get over it.
That was before they were Duke, though. That's before. Okay. Paul, Willard is the most hated coach in Maryland history.
I mean, right now, maybe. I'm not sure if he beats some other culprits out there. I mean,
who?
Bob Wade got us the death penalty. That wasn't great. Not entirely his fault.
I thought of him. I thought of him as a possibility as well.
I mean, probably, but everything's people hate Edsel. They have plenty of reasons to hate Edsel. Did he do anything wrong by us necessarily? No, he was just bad at his job.
He was just bad. That's different than Willard.
I don't know. Probably yes.
Yeah.
But it changes. It can change at any moment.
Last one for Jeff. You are tired.
Oh my God. This has literally probably been the busiest week, maybe of my life, honestly, between just personal stuff and obviously covering it all. But I mean, it's a good problem to have. Like I said, it beats the hell out of like the third straight year of no tournament with Turgeon, kind of thing where nobody cares. So it's been fun. I mean, when you do this, you get a rush from it. It's like anything you love to do. So, I'm fortunate to be able to do this for a living. But yeah, it's been absolutely freaking insane. I have like 4 stories that I need to write. Each day it piles up, even no matter how fast you're going. There's 4 more that I've had to just ditch several of them just because I can't keep up. But yeah, true.
I know the feeling, man. I got the flu. I'm on so much like Dayquil right now. I don't even remember what I said 5 minutes ago, so I hope it wasn't too stupid. But it's been nice having all these shows and seeing you guys, but
Hey,
it's a lot,
Paul.
man. We got real jobs too. You know?
It's not done yet. There's more to cover.
Yeah.
you had a nice moment earlier. You might call it a rant. And there were a lot of people in the chat complimenting you. So there you go, Paul.
Oh,
Even
cool.
on Dayquil, you are excelling even on Dayquil. So there.
Well,
you
I'll
go.
read that back later, and hopefully.
Hey, maybe it's because of the Dayquil. Maybe you just got to start. That's your new process. Take a Dayquil before every show.
I don't think you need me on too many drugs here on the show.
All right, Paul. Last one for you. This is so Maryland.
Yeah, it's very Maryland, and not necessarily Maryland's fault this time. I guess it was kind of more of a circumstances thing, but yeah, it's not been cool, man. I mean, there's points where we love gallows humor at this place for a reason, because we're on the gallows so often. I think we're all feel like that James Franco meme where he's got the noose around his neck and the one guy's freaking out and he's just like, first time, you know. I mean, doesn't it feel like that as a Maryland fan? Like, oh, we had a Sweet 16. We had one of the most fun starting five in basketball since probably the national championship team or the 2010 at least. And we barely got to enjoy it because, you know, Willard decided to make it all about him on the way out. So, yeah, it's ridiculously all just the most perfect Maryland thing you could imagine. You know, eventually, like Scott Van Pelt said a couple nights ago on one of those post-game shows, man, Lucy's got to let Charlie Brown kick the football one of these times. I mean, just give us something normal that other normal schools get to enjoy without some sort of asterisk.
It kind of felt like the football got kicked when Queen made that shot. Like, finally, because of all the buzzer beaters, and then finally Maryland got one.
Yeah.
Like, finally.
That shows how much of a drought it's been, though, in getting to the Sweet 16 is kicking the football, you know?
No,
yeah,
but
to beat a 12 seed, the buzzer beater to get into your
any buzzer beater in the tournament. Come on, any tournament buzzer beater is
exciting.
Historic.
It's exciting, sure, but the actual accomplishment of getting to that point is not some huge milestone. And honestly, I thought Turgeon. Oh my God. I thought Willard got circles coached around him in that game. That was a clinic, and they were lucky to win. But that's the whole. We've already gone over all that.
Yeah,
yeah. Paul's right. Could there be any more Maryland thing than having your maybe highest point in basketball in 20 years and having the coach just torch the whole thing in unprecedented fashion with the press conferences and then everything else?
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
All right.
Who doesn't enjoy being a Maryland fan?
Maybe
so much fun.
We
all love it.
For Maryland basketball.
We all love it. We had a lot of people here today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's really great having you guys here live with us and interacting. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do that for us and click like for us. That helps the algorithms and all those things.
Yeah, it sounds like we'll be back very soon. So keep an eye out.
Yeah, normally you go Wednesdays, but since we did tonight, maybe we'll kind of play it by ear depending on when there's an announcement. So we'll let you guys know for sure. And if you click subscribe and if you hit the bell, you'll get a notification if you want to do that. You don't have to do that, though. And we'll let everybody know on the board and all those kind of things. So thank you guys very much. This is IMS Radio.